Hey everybody, David Swor here once again with DJ Cox for another episode of Frenemies. And we're going to kind of take a right turn right here. We're going to talk some fantasy baseball. And we got the fantasy baseball guru here, Matt Kerns. Good to have you on here once again, Matt. And this is an interesting show because the last time we talked fantasy, DJ made us all get dumber. So we're hoping he redeems himself. We're going to find out here. So the first thing we're going to talk about, let's talk about some fantasy outfielders. So we're in some leagues together. One of our leagues, you have to draft, I believe it's either 4 or 5 outfielders, which makes that really tough in a 12-team league. So Kerns, I'm going to turn it over to you here, man. Let's talk some fantasy outfielders.
Yeah, let's pull up the rankings here that we came up with. And admittedly, I've been a little pressed for time at work, so I didn't do a consensus, but you can see we can go through the list here. Pretty much 1 through 5 is going to be pretty standard.
Wait a minute. We just got to pump the brakes here just real fast. DJ, what is going on with Ronald Acuna all the way at 7 and poor old Mookie Betts, the man, at 3? You got to explain yourself on this.
I mean, Mike Trout and Juan Soto are 2 of the best players in the game. I mean, I know Mookie is too, but I don't know why you're dogging me because I have Mike Trout above anybody. He's the greatest player maybe of all time, and Juan Soto just destroyed the league in batting average, slugging, and on base and OPS. I think he led all of them last year, if I'm not mistaken. So don't even start with me already on that one, David.
Well, then you got to explain Acuna clear back there at 7 or whatever. Well, I mean, what's going on here?
You don't even have him as the best outfielder in his own team.
Well, Ozuna was the MVP offensively last year, if you ask me. I know you got to give it to Freddie because of the defense, but Marcell Ozuna out-hit Freddie Freeman last year. I don't think he can repeat that, so to speak. But Acuna, what did Acuna hit last year, David? Like 250? I mean, come on.
But I looked at that today. He hit 250, but you realize he hit 14 home runs in only 46 games. He battled through some injuries or something as well. But because I was thinking the same thing, like, well, it's this guy, but he obviously didn't play a full season last year, which nobody did. But that production in 46 games.
Let me kick your guys' butt a little bit here on Christian Yelich. What is that? This guy's an MVP candidate. You got him like the 7th best outfielder. Got Bellinger over him? Woo!
Yeah, I don't think that's a hard thing to do, to be honest with you. I mean, Bellinger is the man, and he plays in a awesome lineup, so he's going to score a ton of runs in addition to the home runs and RBIs he's going to hit. I don't hate Yelich, and apparently Kerns doesn't either. I just like those other guys better.
Yeah, I agree. I like the other guys better. And the thing, on our first fantasy show, I kind of said that, I wasn't putting much stock into 2020, and I'm not, but it is concerning when you look and see that Yelich only hit 205 or something last year. So to me, that's just kind of why I dropped him a little bit. I think he'll bounce back and have a very nice year, and he may even be an MVP, caliber type candidate this year. But like David said, man, the guys that are ahead of him, I have no problem with those guys being ahead of Christian Yelich at this point.
So it looks like Kerns is buying it a little bit, but DJ's not buying the Michael Conforto love. What's up with that, DJ?
Man, yeah, I don't even know. He's probably way down there on my list. But I don't even see him.
No. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. The biggest head scratcher in all this to me, and Kerns, you're the fantasy guru, so maybe you can explain. Why all the love for Kyle Tucker? I don't get it.
Yeah, I looked at him today because I wasn't super familiar with him, and I started looking and I thought, why is this guy rated so high? And admittedly, I've got him rated higher than everybody else, and I think that was more because of the fact that I was just kind of throwing this together. But I don't get it either. I mean, if you're going to rank him that high, it's based purely on potential, because I don't see that he has a track record that would make you feel like this guy's going to come out and just be a masher. And that's kind of one of the things that bothers me about ESPN is they'll have these rankings and then they'll have these projections. And if you look at their projections, it never matches up with the rankings. They'll have a guy like, for example, Starling Marte. They have him ranked so high, but they have 20 players below him that are out producing him statistically. So I don't get it, but I don't get the deal with Kyle Tucker either. And like I say, I'm the one that rated him higher, but I think that was more because ESPN did, and I was just trying to go through a list here.
I'm just happy to see DJ finally give Mike Yastrzemski some love. He tried to make fun of me when I tried to make him, I believe, a silver slugger. So, DJ, I appreciate you putting him in the top 10 of that fantasy for me. Atta boy.
You got it, man. The home runs worry me a little bit with him, but he's pretty solid in every other category.
Yeah.
And you guys obviously had Eloy Jimenez in here before the injury, so I did not include him in my rankings. And Whit Merrifield, I have him as a second baseman, so I didn't include him in the outfield. So if I've had him on my list somewhere else, I didn't include him. So I've got a couple of different guys. But so one of the guys that I kind of propped up, and it's not because he's a Red, honestly, is Nick Castellanos. I started doing like a little bit of a deeper dive and some research on him. And, last year, statistically, none of the Reds hit for average, but I was looking and reading something that said he had his worst season of his career. And even as the worst season of his career, he hit double-digit home runs, and I think he still had over 30 RBI. So if this guy comes into Great American Park and hits 270, he's going to hit 30 home runs and get 100 RBIs. So I popped him up pretty high because I feel like he will bounce back this year. And given that fact that he's playing in that ballpark, I really like him this year.
I looked at his stats as well, Kerns, after I saw your list, to be honest with you. It was DJ's list. I saw him on. Anyway, I looked up his stats, and it was like, hey, this guy's kind of unheralded and somebody need to pay attention to. And the Reds are going to hit. I believe the Reds are going to hit. And last year was just an aberration. So he's a good player.
So let's round out here at the bottom. And there's Eloy again. So here's the kind of the bottom of the list here. David, you had Starling Marte ranked lower than any of us, and I can't argue with you, honestly. I mean, he's not he doesn't really wow you in any category. I think that's maybe why he's ranked so high for me, is just the consistency. He's kind of an all across the board type producer, but what's your thinking in ranking him that low?
I just don't think there's going to be a lot of RBI opportunities for him. We know that the Marlins, their signature thing is their pitching. Got guys on base, you can't knock them in. So I like Starling Marte, but I would just like him in someone else's lineup.
Man, Randy Arozarena, I missed on him. I gotta kick myself. I'm gonna put him where Eloy is, because Randy Arozarena is an absolute stud. He must not be ranked. He might be a steal in this fantasy drafts. I didn't see him in any of the pre-rankings here. That kind of threw me off. Seeing you guys had him there, man, he must be rated pretty low. What's up with that? This guy's an absolute animal.
Well, I think the reason is because everything that you think about Randy Arozarena is what you think about in the playoffs. In the season, he was okay. You know what I mean? He wasn't a bad player. So we all remember when Yasiel Puig had the big month or whatever. We talked about this before, DJs. Randy Arozarena, Yasiel Puig. So I would definitely, take him, because maybe he's not. But that's what I think.
I'm with you. I think, you talked about Kyle Tucker. To me, this guy's the same thing as Kyle Tucker. We do think about him because of the playoff run that he had, but statistically, his season wasn't as good as Kyle Tucker's was last year. I think, a lot of people are banking off the fact that he had a good run in the playoffs, and they think that that's going to continue. So I included him in my top 25, but I would definitely listen to an argument that he shouldn't be there. But at the same time, maybe he will come through and be that guy. Honestly, to me, when you get out of the top 15, it's kind of a crapshoot anyway with some of these guys. Outfield to me used to be one of those positions where you were 30 solid outfielders, and looking at this list, there's, when you get past 15, some of these guys are kind of just like, you're not feeling too great about them when you're thinking about drafting a fantasy team, and you got to draft 5 outfielders, like you said. You're talking a lot of these guys aren't going to be on your roster because they're just going to be gone already. So
Kerns, you got a couple names here that I really like that I can't believe I kind of missed on. So Alex Verdugo, man, he's going to be in a good lineup. And, I think he's going to do something. Then Anthony Santander, I believe is how you say his name. He's an Oriole, so we don't hear much about him because they lose all the time. But he had kind of a sneaky season last year. So fill us in what you're thinking there with him.
So we've kind of talked about this before, but to me, the production you get for this guy and the value where ESPN ranks him, I think is in the 30s or below. To me, his production warrants him being a top 25 outfielder. Granted, he is with the Orioles, but even in the Oriole lineup last year, he produced. And if you look the year before that, he produced. I can't remember who they were comparing him to earlier today. Maybe it was Lourdes Gurriel or somebody like that. I can't remember. Teoscar Hernandez, one of those two guys they compared him to, and they basically had equal production. But the love is always for the guy that's kind of on the better team. So I think, I rated him in the top 25 because I really feel like, he's going to be a guy that could hit 30 home runs and drive in 100 runs, even in that lineup.
So DJ, we both had some homer picks going on here. you had Ian Happ. I threw Clint Frazier in there. So tell us why you think Ian Happ should be a top 25 outfielder, and I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Well, Ian Happ started last season on absolute fire, and he was the MVP on offense for the Cubs. So he's got to be in there somewhere. The OPS for him is outstanding. He had a lot of home runs last year. Not a lot, but he got a lot of production from him last year. So I threw him on the bottom there. He's an absolute stud. And when I saw Frazier right next to him, I thought that was we had to throw the homer picks on there, so to speak. Frazier's going to be a really good ball player, especially getting more of a chance to play every day now that Brett Gardner can just sit on the bench and beat his bat against the top of the dugout now. So Clint Frazier's definitely a stud, no doubt about that. I think he's pretty awesome, and Ian Happ is definitely as well. So
I'll be honest with you, I struggled with Ian Happ. I wanted to put him in my top 25. Everything I've seen every publication, everything I've seen projects him to hit over 30 home runs and like 34 or 35 home runs. So how do you keep a guy that's going to produce that kind of offense out of your top 25? I would have no problem taking Arosa out or even Brantley or Trent Grisham. For me, I would put Ian Happ there and be perfectly fine with it. This is kind of a preference type thing, but
it's so deep, man. It's so deep. Like you said, you can go so many different directions with this thing, and it's cool to have these lists. So because we got fantasy night on Sunday night, boys, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So having stuff like this is definitely gonna help.
Absolutely.
David, why don't you tell me about Aaron Judge? Here's a guy that I've got ranked low. You guys all have him a little bit higher, but if this guy's healthy, you arguably have a top 5 fantasy player.
Yeah.
I love Aaron Judge. He's literally my favorite player. He's my son's favorite player, so that makes him kind of my favorite player too. The dude cannot stay healthy. He cannot stay healthy. And we're going to talk about this in a minute. We're going to move on to DHs. Giancarlo Stanton's the same way. When he's healthy, he's the best. He's the best. He's as good as Nelson Cruz when he's healthy. But they're both about 6'7", 270 pounds, and they just cannot stay healthy. And so for that reason, I just can't put him up there, man. If he's healthy, he's probably a top 5 outfielder. But until he proves me wrong, that's just where he's going to be.
Well, I know this is a fantasy section, but you brought up a good point. These are both big, strong guys. What is the deal with them not being able to stay healthy?
They changed trainers this year, and they've gotten away from lifting weights. I think there's something to be said for lifting too much and getting too stiff, especially when you got to play the outfield every day. And so I'm hoping, that's going to help. Now, the bad side of this is Aaron Judge has got 1 home run right now in spring training. He just hit it yesterday. So hopefully it's not going to zap his power. I don't think it is. But I just think those guys kind of got a little bit too muscle bound. So Kerns, why don't we transition and let's talk about those DHs. We run out of real estate pretty quick. We were talking off air with DHs, if that's a category in your league. You got to jump on something pretty quick, because if not, you're going to be choosing someone's platoon partner. There we go. So we all had Nelson Cruz first, but I'm gonna tell you guys, I was sweating JD Martinez a little bit right here. Were you guys having any second thoughts?
I did. Honestly, I was thinking, Cruz has been ultra consistent for probably 7 to 8 years now. And had I not looked at the year he had last year, I would have put Martinez first just based on the potential. But I think you can honestly make a Hall of Fame case for Nelson Cruz. And this, I know we're not talking about that, but fantasy, this guy's got over 400 bombs in his career. This guy has kind of like come out of nowhere the last 10 years. He's been an absolute beast at the plate. I mean, I couldn't put anybody above him just because of that, but I do feel like he's 40 years old now. At some point, it's going to fall off, and most of the time with these guys, it falls off fast. So it wouldn't surprise me if this is the year, but it wouldn't surprise me if he hits 40 home runs again.
I'm with you. Did you say he was 42? Is that right? 40.
He's 40 this year.
40. Yeah. I struggle. JD Martinez, when healthy, he's the man. He's in a great lineup. So that was a struggle. So both of you guys like Yordan Alvarez. So you're going to have to explain that one to me. Now, listen, I'm not saying he's not a good player, but we're already hearing the rumbles that the knees are hurting again. So what did you guys base that decision on?
Well, for me, I looked at it the year before. Like I said, 2020 to me is kind of, you got to take it with a grain of salt. But the year before that, he was very solid. And as a DH, I'm not too worried about his knees. Honestly, he's not playing the field. He's going up and kind of pulling the old Kirk Gibson type deal. He just needs to hit the ball, So for me, I wasn't super concerned about any of that stuff. He's just getting at bats every day. I still think he'll be productive.
Yeah, those two, the combination of Yordan Alvarez and Giancarlo Stanton are top tier DHs, and you kind of just flip a coin as to which one's going to stay healthy is kind of the thing with these two guys. And you're going to get mass production out of both those guys, but you're kind of banking on which one's going to stay healthy the most for these guys. And so man, I think they're both absolutely awesome. I think Yordan Alvarez is, on one of the best teams in the majors and going to produce a lot of runs. So I think a big production and a big season's coming from him, no doubt.
Kerns, you're a pretty big Shohei fan. You're going to have to explain yourself on this one. We were talking about this off air, and I was making fun of DJ. But I think you like Shohei better than DJ even does, which I thought was impossible.
So do you, David.
Yeah, apparently so. So Shohei, he's kind of like, he definitely has the talent, but it's another one of the things. Don't you guys think the Angels just need to pick something and let him do it?
Well, I don't know, man. I think they got something here. He's pretty solid at both things. Like, I mean, if he goes down again injury-wise one more time, then I think you're right, David. Maybe they should just pump the brakes on this a little bit, and you're either one or the other because he's battled the injuries a lot, obviously. But if he can stay healthy, man, this thing works, and he's nasty on the mound. He can mash at the plate, so why wouldn't you try both until he gets hurt again? Then you can maybe relook at it. But I see what you're saying with all the injuries. That makes sense.
I put him there because when I looked at when I was looking at the rankings, I told you guys off air that I was looking at the depth charts for all these teams on who they had as DH, and they've got Ohtani penciled in as the everyday DH. Now that's probably not going to happen, but if he gets the start, say 4 out of 7 games in a week, I think he'll be very productive at that position. And based on what he's doing this spring, if he hits like that, you could have a very solid value pick here with him, even at the DH position.
He's tearing it up this spring, huh?
From what I've seen, yeah.
Yeah, he definitely is. Yep.
So let's move on over to the next round here. Why don't we take a look at some starting pitchers? So this is a place that's always tough. It seems like once you get past those real elite guys, it's kind of a crapshoot. You're dealing with a lot of prospects, risers, guys that you think are going to bust out. And I'm gonna be honest, man. filling this out took me forever because there's just so many good pitchers. It's just hard to figure out who needs to go where. So it looks like, the top 3 or 4 guys, we were fairly in agreement. DeGrom's definitely number 1. Kerns likes Cole a little bit better than Bieber. And actually like Bauer better than Bieber. So explain that, Kerns. What makes you think Bieber is going to be down a little bit this year?
It's not that I think Bieber's going to be down. I just think if you think about Bauer and you think about what he did with the Reds with no run support, I just feel like with a team like the Dodgers, where he knows he can go out, pitch like he's pitched and pick up wins. I just feel like he's in a position to honestly have another Cy Young type season. To me, Bieber is still a little unproven. He's obviously a stud, but to me, he's a guy that, if you're telling me which one do I trust more, I trust Bauer more. So that's why I've got him ranked a little bit higher.
Gotcha. I don't know what to think of Bauer because of the stats that DJ brought up in our last podcast. He's just so up and down. And when he's up, and he's the man. But one of those seasons with the Reds, I think the half season that he was with them, he was terrible. Or average, I should say. He was just average. And that's why I really struggle with pumping Bauer up there too far, which I'm trying to figure out where I did put him. Did I leave him out on accident? I think I might have.
You did. And I actually put him down at the end of your list because you forgot him.
Okay. Yeah, that's my bad. I probably would have put Bauer ahead of Darvish. It would have been between him and Buehler. I was surprised, and maybe you guys can comment here, how good Nola's been. I guess I just sort of had not been paying attention to Nola, but he's been really good for a couple years. But I think I would have probably slotted Bauer in right there somewhere, probably right behind Nola. And again, it's just totally based upon the ups and downs of Bauer.
Bauer's kind of been, it's not been so much up and down to me as it's been a slow progression. He started out, and to me, he was that guy that he wasn't very impressive. But if you look at his last 2 or 3 seasons, his numbers have drastically improved. And obviously last year was just lights out. If somewhere in the middle is probably where he's going to be, even in the middle there, you've got him probably at a low 3 ERA. So I just feel like, he's figured it out, is the way I kind of approach it.
Where's the line from elite to the second tier? Where's the last guy that you just have to pick up before you get in that second tier?
Well, to me, you kind of have a 1A and a 1B, and I would say here's the 1A. These guys up here are all 1A, and you're not going to be upset if you get anybody from this list up as your stud. And the arguably
10 up.
Yeah, I mean, even Luis Castilla to me is a guy that you can depend on to be your number 1 on a fantasy team. But I think anywhere below this list here, and you're kind of thinking, oh, maybe I waited too long to get that guy, is what you may be thinking.
So a couple guys that are on different lists here. So DJ, you have Sixto Sanchez up there pretty high, and we know why. He's big height. But I'll explain a little bit from my perspective why I didn't put Sixto up there. Sixto was a little light on the strikeouts last year. So maybe are you just expecting him to keep rising?
Yeah, I just think he got a year under his belt, and the potential is definitely there for him to be a K guy for sure. I think he's legit. I think he's going to average a lot of Ks this coming year. You're right. He did not have a ton last year. I think that does a lot of tribute to being a rookie and kind of learning how this thing works. So I expect great things out of him this year, no doubt.
Kerns, what do you think about Sixto? Do you have him on your top 25?
I don't. Didn't know a lot about him coming into the season. Started looking at his stats when I started doing some fantasy drafts and saw, that this guy was pretty hyped and is a hard thrower. ESPN kind of has him on the downside. Not saying he's on the downside, but his value was declining, is what I should say. so I didn't include him in my list. I did see here that I put Kershaw in here twice by mistake, but no, I do think give him a couple more years, and if he develops, he could be one of those guys. But I didn't include him in my top 25. If I'm talking about top 25 pitchers, to me, these are guys that you can draft and not worry about what you're going to get out of them. And I think for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable drafting him in the top 25.
You put Clayton Kershaw on there twice, there's nothing wrong with that. You can put Clayton Kershaw on there 25 times and you'll be fine.
Exactly.
DJ, you had a homer pick in here, so I've got to ask Kerns where he ended up on his list. There's old Kyle Hendricks, I'm sorry. Where did he fall for you, Kerns? So
I had him around the 20 range, and I wanted to put him higher, honestly, because I do kind of feel he's undervalued. But then I started looking at even his really good years, and they were 4 or 5 years ago. And so even though he was solid last year and solid the year before that, I just feel like, to me, it's the production you get when you're talking about from a fantasy perspective is you need statistics, and strikeouts is one of those big ones. And to me, he didn't produce enough on that end for me to value him higher.
Outstanding whip from him, though. You're going to get a great whip from him, and you're going to get the other things. The Ks, like you said, are a little bit down, but the ERA and the whip are really, really solid for this guy. So you're going to get the good numbers there. You're going to kind of pay the price a little bit K-wise. But he can get some Ks in games, no doubt. So he's not a fantasy, absolute stud, like top tier guy by any means, but he's definitely solid, no doubt.
The one guy on my list that I really struggled with, honestly, not putting him higher, is Zach Wheeler. So, Kerns, what's your thoughts on Wheeler? Is he an ace, or is he more like a number 2 guy? Do you think there's some room for improvement to climb the list, or you think he just kind of is what he is right here?
So I looked a little bit at his statistics today and started looking, and didn't realize he's 30 years old. So really, to me, I thought, well, he's a 26-year-old guy. If he was 26, maybe I could see that. At this point, to me, he kind of is what he is. He's not an ace. To me, he's kind of like a 1B or 2. But the production, I think that the reason I would list him this high fantasy-wise is he's going to be on a good team and he's going to get statistics. But from a pure baseball perspective, I don't think he's an ace.
The last guy I wanted to talk about, and me and DJ had him pretty far up the list, he's kind of towards the end of your list, is Zach Gallen. He's somebody that's been climbing a lot of the charts. To be honest with you, when I looked at him on the list on the ESPN's rankings, I thought, what's this guy doing up here? But then I looked and saw, wow, ton of Ks, low ERA last year. So why no love for Zach Gallen, Kerns?
Just kind of the same thing. I looked, and I think if you put him that kind of a value on him, you have to weigh 2020 considerably. And I just don't. That to me last year was kind of goofy all around. And another reason I didn't is because, honestly, ESPN kind of has a daily update on their things, and they were kind of showing his value is declining. So I don't know if there's an injury concern there or what the concern is, but I just I didn't feel comfortable putting a guy that's only got a couple years experience under his belt. I didn't feel like I had much confidence sticking him anywhere higher on that list.
So, David, you see Dylan Bundy's on that list, buddy. You see him at the end of that.
Bring it up.
Yes,
DJ,
sir.
I hate to admit this, but I really can't argue with you right there.
Got it,
Bundy did have a good year last year. Now, the one guy I will fight you on a little bit is Tyler Glasnow. So, how does a guy with a 4.09 ERA make it in the top 25?
Just off of potential. I really think he's going up. He's still so stinking young, and what a stud he is. I really believe in the guy. That's more off of gut kind of thing. The statistics are not quite there yet. But kind of just like with Sixto, I think these guys are really studs, up-and-coming pitchers that are going to get you the Ks and get you the things you need in fantasy to survive, so to speak. So David, I'm going to bust your chops on the Kenta Maeda one and say that he should not be on there. And Dylan Bundy and Tyler Glasnow are way better than Kenta Maeda. And Strasburg, man, I just don't see him sticking there because of the health concerns with him. He's already hurt this year. I think something happened to him. So he can't stay healthy, which is unfortunate because if, like you said, if he is healthy, then I agree he's in the top 25, no doubt.
Listen, I was going to leave Kenta off the list. His last season was pretty awesome. He was definitely, top 3 or top 4 in the Cy Young voting. And so I kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt. 4.03 career ERA. I did look that up, and it was kind of hard to swallow. But maybe Kenta found something. You got to keep in mind the Dodgers had him in the swing role, and a lot of guys can't handle that. And so, yeah, I struggle with that one too. And I'll tell you another one I kind of struggled with. Honestly, not putting him higher is my boy Patrick Corbin, because he racks up the Ks too, man. Kerns, was he close to making your list?
Yeah, I struggled with that, and honestly, the Kershaw pick may have been a duplication there where I left Corbin off. I've had Corbin in a couple leagues, and he signed that big deal with Washington a couple years ago. And I think the first year of that contract, he really performed well. And then I think he kind of had a down year. But I think overall, this guy's a solid pitcher all around. And you can, we talked about it before. You look for consistency in fantasy, and this guy's pretty consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, let's jump down to the last category, which is the closers, which, like an idiot, I didn't fill out. So I'll be shooting from the hip here a little bit. But like we talked in our last podcast, the closer, I don't know if it's becoming a thing of the past necessarily, but those saves are really spreading out. And so number 1 on the list, you guys both have Josh Hader. So I assume you guys think Devin Williams isn't going to be taking any of those saves?
Well, I put Devin Williams on my list at 10, so that should tell you a little bit of exactly about what you just said. The days of those shutdown closers and having, one guy to fill that role, I think, are probably on the decline there. And I put him on the list because, look at his numbers, man. He's got a sub 1 ERA and a sub 1 whip.
Yeah.
If Hader would happen to stumble a little bit or even go through a week or two where he just needed to take a break, this guy could easily step in and start getting some saves. And the other reason too, because a lot of leagues now, and even in some of the leagues we're in, we start to use holds as a category. This guy's going to rack up holds too. So I put him on the list because I just felt like he deserved to be there.
I picked him up last year. I just needed, how it is in the league that we're in. It's based on starts, not necessarily innings. And so I picked up Devin Williams last year, and man, he was awesome. He was awesome. So DJ, I've got to bust on you like really hard. This is as dumb as the David Bodie pick. And just in all honesty, how is Craig Kimbrell even on this list? Is he even going to play this year? What is going on?
He's going to find it, baby. This team's going to win the division. He's going to get the saves. He's going to get the Ks. He can still throw really hard. Come on. The one thing I will kind of punt on here a little bit is Kirby Yates is obviously hurt. I did this before he got hurt, so you can punt him out of there. But yeah, man, I think he's about 9-10 in closers. Come on. He's in the top third of closers in the league. There's no doubt about it. He's going to step up his game this year, get the Ks, get the saves. I'm believing
not 2016 anymore. 2016, that was like 5 years ago when he was good last time. So Kerns, I love the Edwin Diaz pick. I like that you put him up there. I think people have forgotten how much he was the man.
No.
He was good last year too, DJ. Oh yeah, Edwin Diaz found it last year, so I like that pick. I also like Karinchak. Man, nobody's nastier than he is. Just his control can kind of leave him sometimes. But I like Karinchak. Brad Hand, we've talked about him. I can't believe some team didn't pick him up. And then, Kerns, you have Trevor Rosenthal. So if I'm not mistaken, is he going to be the Royals closer? Am I thinking right on that?
Athletics, right? I think he's the
Athletics. I'm sorry, Athletics. That's right. He was Royals last year. So he can be sneaky there.
Yeah, the reason I ranked him in my top 10 was because I started going back and looking, and he's a guy that in the past has had multiple 40 save seasons, and I thought, given the chance to reclaim that role. You know how these relief pitchers are. They kind of come and go, where they'll be hot 1 year, cold the next year. And he's kind of had some up and down, and he did have a bounce back year last year. And I feel like that potentially, obviously, like I said, there a lot of these people, when you start getting below the top 7 or 8 of these people here, you're not too comfortable with them. But I felt like potentially he could be a guy that, again, could pick up 30 saves for a team like the Athletics.
And again, DJ has him 3rd. I didn't realize that, and has Liam Hendricks 10th. So I have gotten dumber for sure after reading DJ's list. If you are watching this podcast, this is fantasy malpractice. That's the best way that I can put it. I mean,
we're taking advice here from a guy who has a blank set of relief pitchers here, so I don't know what you're talking about.
If that was my closer list, I think I would just leave it blank. It would be an embarrassment. People would think I didn't know anything about fantasy baseball.
Oh,
all
wow.
right, guys. Well, I guess this is going to wrap it up for our fantasy show. We got, I think I have 3 drafts this weekend, and Kerns, I know you at least have that many. DJ, how many do you have?
I have 2, buddy, and they're both on the same night, Sunday night. So we got some work to do as far as that goes. It's going to be a lot of fun with the drafts this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. Kicking your butt in both of these. Both of you are both in both of my leagues. So you guys are going down. You can make fun of me all you want to, but I will be the champion in both leagues this year. So
Well, I will make fun of you all that we want to. So you can count on that, if nothing else. And we may need to get Steve Shelton added to one of these leagues. He's better at insulting people than anybody I know. So we may make that happen. All right, guys. Well, that'll wrap up our fantasy show. Kerns, thanks a lot, man, for coming on and doing the legwork there, putting those lists together. We really appreciate it. And as always, subscribe to our podcast, like and share it. We'd really appreciate it. And hey, we're less than a week away from real baseball. So super excited. Can't wait till Thursday to be watching some games. Kerns, we got to take a trip over to Recovery, watch a little bit of a game or something. So, but I guess that's it. We'll see you guys later on. DJ, who we got next?
Well, I believe we're going to do the Yankees, buddy, on Monday probably. We got to get them in before the season starts, no doubt. We got to get the Dodgers in maybe sometime before we start, and we'll try to get the Orioles in. We'll try to do our best and get as many as we can here and as we roll into the season and get them done. So,
Well, guys, you guys have a good night, and we'll see you later.
all right. Bye, everybody.